What's up, everybody? I'm Keenan Womack. I'm the host of Keep Austin Beard. I'm joined by my man Ari Temkin over here. How you doing, brother?
I'm great, Keenan. How are you, brother?
I'm good, man. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. And also, I'm looking for sponsors for my work. So if you're interested in sponsoring basketball content on Orange Bloods, go ahead and hit up Jeffrey Ketchum about that, and we can get started on a deal. Thank you, guys. So there's a few things we want to talk about today and Keep Austin Beard because it was a big week in a lot of ways. Season tipped off. National Signing Day was very recently, and Texas signed two top 30 players. The first of which is Arterio Morris from Kimball, who is a top 10 recruit in the country. He's the number one guard in the state of Texas, according to Rivals. And then they got Dylan Mitchell from Montverde, who's a four-star small power forward. He's 28th in the nation, according to Rivals as well. So that's a really impressive first recruiting class, especially considering the way that the recruitment of Dylan Mitchell kind of was at the very end. I was kind of involved in that process of sort of breaking that recruitment because I talked to his coach, Derek Sharp, who coaches at Montverde, and we were talking about it, and he loved his visit to Texas. And so Dylan Mitchell had a relationship with Coach Urich from Texas because of Each One Teach One, which is an AAU program. And that was kind of the initial relationship starter. And that's a big reason why they landed Mitchell. And that's a huge deal because they only had one recruit up to that point.
Yeah, it's the early signing period in college basketball. It's going on now, and I think through November 15th. And I'm very interested to see. Obviously, the team this year that Chris Beard has is supremely talented. But what does the future of college basketball recruiting and roster management and building look like? Will every year look similar to this year? Is this year different because of the super senior part? Even before this year, obviously at Texas Tech, Chris Beard was playing the transfer portal, a high level. So he's
Right.
kind of been early to market in terms of, exploiting the usage of the transfer portal and getting kids in. And he has a incredible reputation of developing players, bringing in guys that are high level D1 players and turning them into NBA prospects. And so that is gold for him. And, you need guys that you can recruit, and young players, high school level players you're going to recruit, and there's a balance there. But I'm just very curious to see, Keenan, how this, changes. And because you look at the top three teams here in the Big 12, Kansas, Baylor, and Texas, and they've all played the transfer portal, at a high level this offseason. Yep.
Yeah, no, for sure. And what's interesting too is Baylor got a Kinjo, who's an Arizona guard. I mean, that guy's stellar. A lot of these guys were Pac-12 transfers too, which I think is
Timmy Allen, Akinjo, Remy Martin, all Pac-12 first team last year.
Basically, yeah. That's just so interesting to me. It really is kind of an indicator of how elite the Big 12 is as a basketball conference, that players want to play here. It's kind of like the SEC, which is good in basketball too, but football players want to play in the SEC. Like, it's clear that guys want to play in the Big 12 as long as it's around, because there's just so much competition at a high level. A lot of dudes are going pro out of the Big 12. So it's just, I don't know, it's just definitely an indicator of like where things are right now at the Big 12 basketball side.
Well, look, you've the first overall pick in this past year's draft, Cade Cunningham. You had Trae Young, who's becoming one of the best young stars in the NBA.
Yep.
Oklahoma State there. There's obviously history with Texas. And you could argue Texas still has some of the best pros in the NBA cumulatively. It's probably Kentucky at this point, but
it is Kentucky. I think they have 27, but Texas has 14. I know 27. That's crazy. But I think Texas has 14, or they definitely have 14. And, they have guys who are showing out. Jared Allen, that dude looks awesome this year. He's had a fantastic season. A couple of weeks ago, he had a week where he averaged 21 and 16 on 75% from the field. Like, it was just dominant,
And Avery Bradley's still playing.
Yeah, PJ Tucker had the putback last night to force overtime.
He's like really 800.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, he's an old dude and he's still out there balling. It's just really cool to see Texas grads or former Texas players, doing really well in the league, and it's good for recruiting. It makes guys realize like, wow, like I can go to Texas and I can get into the NBA that way. And I think that's especially true with Chris Beard. I mean, last year they had 3 players drafted, on a team that lost in the first round. Like Texas has never really had a shortage of talent.
Right.
It's really just putting it all together that's been the issue. And I think now, because I have a lot of respect for Coach Shaka Smart. I think he's like a good coach. I just don't think it worked here necessarily.
Completely agree.
To do.
He's going to be good at Marquette.
I think so too. And another thing that I always said about Shaka Smart is I think that the system he used to run, that Havoc system, I think a lot of the success of that was attributed to the ability to use your hand to check the ball handler. And when that was taken away, I think that made a big difference in what Havoc was able to do.
That's a great point. And look, you got to evolve.
Right.
There was the thought that you come to Texas, you have more talent. And so you got guys that maybe weren't going to be able to play that style. So evolve, deal with a new style, figure out a way to, to win despite that. You can't say that, having great talent is a disadvantage, but
right.
Look, at the end of the day, it's led Texas to this incredible coach who's a Texas grad, and Chris Beard, who I think is one of the best coaches in America. And this is a guy that can win playing a lot of different ways and has shown the ability to do that over the course of his career. And I guess I wonder to you, what did you take away from Houston Baptist?
Yeah, so I wrote down a few things that I wrote a piece about it the night of it, but I just picked off a few highlights that I think are important. So what interested me was the small ball lineup that they went with. Tre Mitchell didn't start, which is interesting to me because I think he might be the best player on the team. I know it's like hard to say with all his talent and they all do different things, but Tre Mitchell is an elite scorer. I mean, his touch inside is amazing. He can hit threes. He can face up. He can hit shots from the mid range. He's a super versatile offensive player, and he didn't start. You know what I mean? Like the starting lineup was 3 guards. It was Carr, Ramey Jones, Timmy Allen at the 4. Well, I mean, I guess it's like positionless, but Timmy Allen and then Christian Bishop, which, Christian Bishop at Creighton played a lot of small ball 5. So he's familiar with those responsibilities and how to, defend the paint and things like that. But he's only 6'7". That's not huge for a guy that you want protecting the paint, and I thought that was interesting that they went with that lineup. And it'll be interesting to see whether they start Tre against this fearsome front court that Gonzaga has of a guy who's 7'1" and a guy who's 6'10". So it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Because the main thing I wanted to talk about from the HBU game, I mean, they looked good. They opened up a 40-point lead. They cleaned up the turnovers, all that. They gave up 16 offensive rebounds to Houston Baptist. And Houston Baptist is not bigger than Texas. They're about the same size. And, Gonzaga on Tuesday night out-rebounded their opponent not by a lot, but they out-rebounded them 31-23. But, I mean, Chet Holmgren, that dude is unbelievable. I don't know if you saw his stat line from Tuesday night, but he had 14 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, and 7 blocks.
For people who don't know, it's the number 1 recruit in the country out of Minnesota.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a monster. I mean,
he's a monster.
he's 7'1". He could shoot. I mean, he
can dribble. He runs the floor like a gazelle. Like he's so athletic and fast.
His
name's
and Chet.
skilled.
That's amazing. That's a great first name.
That's a throwback name for sure. Not a common name these days, but yeah, it's going to be, at the press conference yesterday with Chris Beard. One of my friends asked Beard, like, have you ever dealt with a 7-footer that likes to hang around the perimeter? And he said, yeah, I coached at Texas Tech with Bobby Knight. We had to play this guy, Kevin Durant. He's like, I'm not comparing them, but I'm kind of comparing them, was basically his statement on that. And like, he's a unicorn, man. He really is. There's really nobody. He's almost a point center because he's a great passer too. He can drive the lane. Like he can put the ball on the floor. He's 7'1". Like it's just crazy to see this one. And that's their best, maybe their best player. But they have a bunch of dudes on that team that are
It's
also
the same
great.
team from last year, except for Suggs and
Kispert
and
are
Kispert.
gone.
Right.
Yeah.
That's it.
I mean, Drew Timme is unbelievable too. Like that guy, he's also 6'10".
From Pierce High School.
Yeah,
Out here
that's
in
right.
the Richardson area, or the district that I live in.
Yeah. Dallas's own JJ Pierce. So he's really good too. And he's also 6'10", 6'11". So I think you have to start Tre from a size perspective, because I liked what Tre was showing on defense against Houston Baptist. And, people are going to say, oh, the level of competition is not the same. Like, obviously it's not. But the thing with that I liked about Tre Mitchell is he got a couple of blocks, but he also got a couple of steals. He's active in passing lanes. He's high energy. And that was probably the number one thing that I took away from the HBU game is they're high energy, man. They really, really want to win. They're running around. They're chasing down rebounds. They're diving. They're attacking closeouts. Like, they're doing all of those things that high effort, high energy teams do that helps you win ball games. They had a lot of PJ Tucker energy out there, which I think is like really important to win.
Let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Is this a team that's going to be too reliant on threes? I mean, they shot 59% from three in this game against HBU. Are you worried about being too reliant on the three?
Yeah. So last year at Texas Tech, when Beard's last season, they only shot 18 threes a game, which is like pretty low considering like the proliferation of the 3-point shot, more so in pro, but definitely still in college as well. I don't know that they're going to be too reliant. The thing is, they have like 4 or 5 guys who can like hit them at a decent clip. And that includes Dessou, who's not even playing right now, who we'll get to in a minute. But, Tre Mitchell shot like 38% from three. Ramey shot like 41%. Carr didn't have a great percentage, but I broke him down in an article and sort of talked about why he didn't have a great percentage. It's not because he's a bad shooter, has bad mechanics. He was just on a team in Minnesota that had no other offensive options, and he was just forced to shoot bad shots like all the time. But I think he's like a decent shooter,
But he seems like the one guy that can score from a lot of different ways. Like he can be your guy that, because like when I'm thinking about this, it's like, okay, they've got a lot of 3-point shooters. That's not a bad thing,
right?
But they are going to go cold in games. That happens.
Right.
So Marcus Carr seems like one of the more important pieces because he's a guy that's less reliant on the 3-point shot.
Yeah, that's not his game really. He's not like a Trae Young who's like jacking threes up the whole game. Definitely not. I like Ramey from three a lot. I mean, he had a rough end to last season, but like during the regular season, he was on. He was a sniper. He was really good.
And when he gets hot, he's as hot as anybody.
So streaky. Yeah. Like when he gets hot, it's really hard to defend him because he'll start taking like more risky threes, like further back from the line threes and he starts making those and it's like, oh, what do you do next? But I think that's a good question, whether they're going to be too reliant on it or not. I think that Beard probably has thought about that and is probably telling them, let's get into the lane a little bit more. But, with the way Gonzaga is inside, like they may have to take some threes because they're not going to be able to get the not easy, but the less contested shots they got against HBU. Those are just not going to be there on Saturday.
You did a great job of a GIF breakdown of Gonzaga and what to expect. And so much of their offense is sort of initiated from their action on the perimeter. And they use a lot of ball screens and just a lot of screens around the perimeter to get their offense initiated.
Right. Yeah. So the thing with Gonzaga's offense too is like you have 3 ball handlers and 2 screeners. And the ball handlers are kind of like whipping the ball around the perimeter, and they're also like coming off of screens, a lot of dribble handoffs, stuff like that, just stuff to like get people mixed up. And, essentially one of the goals of the continuity is to get the ball to the weak side. So it's like one guy and one defender, as opposed to trying to dribble through traffic. And that works both in, shooting those shots, but also getting to the rim and trying to get to the free throw line, which, Texas didn't do a good job of that against HBU, really. They shot well from the line, but they only had 10 attempts or something like that, which is, not great. You want to be getting to the line a lot more, especially against a team with a ton of size inside. Like, one of the ways that I think they're going to have to try to win is they got to try to get Holmgren in some foul trouble or get Timmy in some foul trouble. I don't know. I haven't watched that whole Gonzaga game. I watched like the first 10 minutes of it because it was going on while I was, at the press conference and all that stuff. But, if they're disciplined defensively, it's going to be really hard to win that game. And another point I wanted to make is, I'm optimistic, but I'm not expecting them to win against Gonzaga. Just from, if they had Dessou, I think it would be a little bit different of a game because for those of you who don't know, Dessou is another transfer from Vanderbilt who's actually from Austin. But before he got injured last year, he was leading the SEC in rebounding, 9.2 a game, which is like, when you're getting out rebounded by Houston Baptist by 8 offensive boards, you need a guy like that. So it's going to be difficult, I think, for them to win, trying to get offensive rebounds and stuff, because you're going to need that too.
Well said. I don't know if you have any other points to make on the Gonzaga Texas game. I wanted to quickly kind of get a few news and notes items out of the Big 12 as Big 12 basketball started. But
sure.
Big 12 is really good. You and I, Keenan, were talking about this. There's 3 teams here that could be 1 seeds. They probably all won't be. But yeah, Baylor, defending national champs.
Yep.
They're still really good. Kansas, after their win over Michigan State, looks incredible. This is a team that can play both styles. They could play small ball. They could play inside. Ochai Agbaji scored 29 for them. When he scores 29 and they've got a guy like Remy Martin who can fill it up.
Yep.
They're a problem. They're probably the best team in the conference, but Texas is right there. And I think there are legitimately 6 tournament teams in this conference.
Yep.
Texas Tech, West Virginia, Oklahoma State obviously can't be, but they would
have been, I think, with
definitely
State and Avery Anderson.
Oklahoma probably is. You're probably looking at Iowa State, Kansas State, Oklahoma State because they can't be. And TCU, but any of those, they could still have 7 and get one of those 4, obviously, other than Oklahoma State, that could be a tournament team.
Right.
And I'm just curious to see, like, Iowa State. They're interesting to me under TJ Otzelberger. I think they're going to be much better than they were last year. But get this, they played Kennesaw State on Tuesday. There was 57 fouls whistled in that game.
Oh my, that's outrageous. I don't think I've ever heard of something like that before.
Almost everybody fouled out of the game. It was incredible.
So is that just like lack of discipline or just like too whistle happy? Like, it's probably a combination, but
yes, definitely too whistle happy.
Yeah,
but also just over aggression. And that's the thing you're going to see from TJ Otzelberger. Like that, they're a in your face, they're going to grind you down kind of team. And they're not from a talent level. They're at the low end at this point in terms of the Big 12, but they're going to be fun to watch. And then Texas Tech under Mark Adams, obviously this is going to be.
I have them ranked. I ranked them 20th in my top 25. I think
they're good.
Good.
And they're 2 transfer, O'Banner from Oral Roberts and Bryson Williams from UTEP.
Yep.
Bryson Williams is a monster. I had never seen this kid play. And Chris Level from RedRaidersports.com was like, watch out for Bryson Williams. This guy's a monster, and he is. So they're going to be a good defensive team. Chris Beard's, no middle defense comes from Mark Adams. So, yeah.
And I had a question about Tech. Did you hear the news about Terrence Shannon?
Yeah.
That's what the deal is with that?
No. Basically,
that's a huge loss.
Huge. So he entered into the NBA draft briefly to kind of see, and I guess, I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but at this point, basically Tech is holding him out because they don't want to be subject to, having to, take away wins or something if he's playing and then he's ruled ineligible.
Right.
It's so weird, given we're kind of this flux of like, you can earn money and name, image, likeness, but there's still some carryover from the old days.
Yeah.
But hopefully there's a resolution here soon because he's an NBA player. He's
definitely,
great skill set, very athletic guy that can play above the rim. And he's a really important piece for them.
Yeah. And, with Tech in general, I really believe in Mark Adams. Like, I think he's
Agreed.
I think he's going to be great, and they're probably not going to be as great as they were over the last 5 years, but
Right.
like they're not going to fall off that hard. And that game on February 1st in Lubbock is going to be insane.
It's going to be insane.
It's going to be wild, and I'm going to be there because my buddy from college is from Lubbock, so we're going to go. And man, I would not be wearing Texas gear to that.
I was going to say, don't wear.
I mean, rivals, you can't wear gear to the game anyway for either team. But I was like, yeah, I mean, I wasn't gonna wear anything either for that game, man. That's gonna be chaos. But yeah, I think Tech's gonna be pretty solid this year. Quick note on Tech. I don't know if you've ever watched the Netflix special or the Netflix show, Last Chance U.
Yeah.
But they do a basketball one, and the star of the team is playing for Tech now, KJ Allen.
KJ Allen. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So is he, how would you did you watch the show at all? Do you know anything about him?
I don't know. I know he's like a 6'9", 6'10" forward. I don't know his play style or anything.
Yeah,
I haven't watched
either.
that show in a while, but I just thought that was an interesting note.
Oh, yeah.
But one last thing about Gonzaga, and then we can probably hang it up. But they have a transfer from Iowa State, Rasir Bolton. And that guy is really good, and he's a starter on their team. Their starting lineup was Strother, Nemhard, Bolton, Timmy, and Holmgren. That's a really scary lineup.
I forgot that Rasir Bolton transferred there. He's a good player.
He's really good. He had like 16 on Tuesday, I think, or 15, something like that. So I showed a clip of him in my GIF breakdown of a motion play they ran where he shot a three and nailed it. But it's going to be a war on Saturday, man. It's not going to be easy. I mean, Gonzaga is going to need to show up to play too. Like they're not going to walk in there and get an easy victory over Texas, but it's going to be a war. It's going to be a really physical game. It's going to be up and down. There's going to be runs. It's going to be really loud in there. And Texas, I just want them to, hang in there, just prove that they belong. That should be their goal on Saturday night. Prove that they belong in the conversation.
No, well said. I mean, look, and this is the luxury of college basketball where you don't have to win games. You obviously want to, but this is more about, at this point, Chris Beard figuring out rotations.
Yep.
This is going to be a good defensive team. Chris Beard doesn't have bad defensive teams, so they're going to sort of, get into that. And it's gonna be a late game. So, I mean, buckle up. You've got Texas football against Kansas on Saturday night, and then
wild game.
And then 9:30, it'll be Texas and Gonzaga. And then the other thing too, Keenan, is there's just not many good games the rest of the month of November and into December. They play at Seton Hall and then at Stanford before conference play begins. So that's it. So it's like, this is one of the few really good tests beyond, Seton Hall and Stanford before the season starts.
Yeah.
Conference play.
No, I agree. Well, I mean, really the season starts in January.
Right.
It's Seton Hall, Stanford. And I think Stanford's in Vegas. But yeah, no, I mean, this is going to be, that's why it's so important that they hang in there. Cause if it doesn't go well, you have a long time before you can prove again that you belong. So I think they need to really show, and they know that they need to go out there and ball. And what I like about the team, what I've just gotten from being at their practices and talking to them and stuff, is they really believe in this thing, and that's such a big part of it, is just believing that you do belong. Yep. And I think they do. And I think they have the talent to hang with anybody. And I guess we'll find out Saturday, man.
What is the spread on the game?
I have been looking. I don't think it's out yet. I was looking earlier today and I couldn't find it. So
any guesses?
Man, if I had to throw a wild guess, I would guess 7.
I was gonna say probably not double digits, but close. That's what I was thinking.
7, 6.5, something like that. Maybe 7.5. That's what my guess would be. But it's such a crapshoot this early on. It's so hard to even pick lines. But I think it'll be less than 10, but more than 5.
I agree with that.
All right, dude. Thank you so much for joining me, man. It's always great to talk to you. I think we should probably make this a weekly thing.
Absolutely. I'm down.
I would really like that. Yeah. And
yeah.
So thanks to all the listeners. Again, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and somebody sponsor me, because this content's about to blow up.
That's right. Texas basketball's blowing up. So get in early with
Yeah.
your business.
Get your
and
stock.
Keenan's great content on basketball all basketball season.
All right.